Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. In the last Dhamma talk, we discussed in detail about discernment of mind and matter. In other words, discriminated awareness or insight into the discriminative awareness of mind and matter. So one practice, quite precisely and correctly according to the instruction. And in the first stage in retreat, within 3 to 4 days, you may experience this insight. Once you experience it, you just keep on doing meditating. Basically, it's always about noting and knowing all objects, physical or mental, that are arising at the present moment. That's it. The beginners, that's what you do. In the middle stage, that's what you do. In the advanced stage, that's what you do. People who are already enlightened, it's all that what we do. Noting or observing the mind and matter, the mind or matter that is arising at the present moment with precision. So once you keep on noting, your mind becomes settled and you have a good sense that these physical phenomena is one thing, rising, falling movement is one process. And the awareness of that rising and falling movement is another process, 2 processes. And you keep on meditating the same thing, observing the objects at the present moment. And slowly you become calmer and calmer and cooler. It's settled in. Once you become calmer and cooler, what happens is you become to aware something different. Not just simply this is the mind, this is the matter, this is the arising, and this is knowing. This is the falling, this is knowing. What happens is you have a distinct perception or a distinct awareness. Automatically you don't have to think. There's the rising movement, which we already know this is one process. There's a rising movement. And right after that, there's the knowing of that movement, the matter. First of all, there's a rising movement. And succeedingly, right after that, there's the knowing of the arising. The same thing, there's the falling movement. And then it follows, what it follows is the knowing or awareness of the falling movement. The same thing with touching sensation. Due to that touching sensation, there's the awareness of the touching sensation. that kind of understanding come to be. In other words, you began to see that way. Okay. To put it into perspective, that rising movement, falling movement, touching sensation are the cause. Because of these, there's the knowing or awareness of these objects. These physical phenomena is the cause, and the knowing, the mental phenomenon, is the effect. So all of you have been gone through to the beginners classes. In there, we purposely do an exercise at that moment, of course, just to give an understanding, theoretical understanding. We all stand and then do the walking meditation. At the end of the path, we stood right there. And then we do an exercise. Okay. You want to turn, and the body turns around. And then we do another exercise with the instruction built in. You are standing there, but you do not have the wish or desire to turn. And as you don't have the wish or desire to turn, what happens? You stand there still for a long time. Your body doesn't move. The correlation between the intention or the desire or the wanting to and the thing that follows. And in here is the intention or desire to turn is the cause. And the body turning is the effect. Cause and effect. Okay. The mind is the cause, turning is the effect. And in a sitting meditation is this movement of the abdomen is the cause, knowing is the effect. So what it indicates is the relationship, okay, the walking relationship between the mind and the body. That is what you come to know. And in here, you don't have to sit down and analyze or think. You simply are observing whatever objects that are rising, falling, rising, falling. Or in walking meditation, lifting, pushing, dropping, lifting, pushing, dropping. And in here, walking meditation is more geared towards to come to experience this. In sitting meditation, you do, but not it is built in to that stage. In the walking meditation, instruction is before you turn, okay, be aware that you want to turn. Know that you want to turn. There's an intention to turn and turning. And then lifting, pushing, dropping too. Once you become gel into the process, okay, you note intention to lift, and then there's a lifting. Intention to push, pushing, intention to drop, dropping. Okay. So we structure in that way, the method is structured in that way. Automatically, it gives you an exposure or situation to come to experience that intention is the cause, lifting is the effect. Intention is the cause, moving forward is the effect. Intention is the cause, dropping is the effect. So in walking meditation, people experience this causal relationship between the mind and the matter more so than the sitting meditation. But you can experience in both. And this is what we call it insight into the causal relationship between mind and matter. The first stage was you understand mind is one thing, matter is one thing. You experience that. And second stage is you're still doing it. While you're doing it, all that you know is you just feel, you just sense. Physical phenomenon is one thing, mental phenomena is one thing, and suddenly it shifts into gear. Your awareness becomes the working relationship between the two. Cause and effect. Mind could be the cause and the physical phenomenon will be the effect. Or physical phenomenon could be the cause, mental phenomenon could be the effect. And mental phenomenon can be the cause and mental phenomenon can be the effect as well. These you will come to experience. So that is insight into the causal relationship of mind and matter. Pichaya parikaha jnana. So in here you are, of course, you don't think about all these insights. You're simply meditating, your mind settles down, you begin to have a sense. Physical phenomena is one thing, mental phenomena is another thing. And you are still observing, observing and observing. And suddenly what happens is, the movement is in the abdomen, rising and falling and rising and falling. And suddenly you come to experience in a different way when you got deeper and deeper and deeper. You're aware there's a rising movement and is succeeding effect is the knowing. Right at the abdomen, you're observing at the abdomen. And suddenly you are not aware of the movement at the abdomen anymore. Simply you're observing, you are looking, you are fixing your mind, you are directing your mind to that movement. But there is no movement at the abdomen anymore. And suddenly one began to experience. It could be in your chest. It could be at your back. It could be on your shoulder. It could be on top of your head. The movement is there. The movements could be in the chest or at the back or on the shoulder or on the head. Even though you are observing the abdomen, suddenly that movement at the abdomen ceases to exist and the movement just shifts around different place. And your job is whatever it shifts, don't have to stop, don't have to analyze, don't have to think. Simply observe. Rising movement, falling movement. Right on top of your cranial opening. Rising, falling, the movement. You just simply observe. Okay. Different parts of your body, this movement shift into it. Everything stops. And awareness is simply that. That also shows, okay, the movement is the cause, awareness is the effect. When there is movement at the abdomen, and if you're aware of it, that's the effect. When there is no movement at the abdomen, you cannot know the movement at the abdomen. There's no effect of that. Whenever it moves around, you have to know wherever there is. So that indicates directly this physical phenomenon or the process is the cause or the proceeding, and the succeeding one is the awareness. You have to note, you have to observe, and you will come to know wherever that movement is. And when these movements shift around like that, you are not aware of anything except that spot. So that shows that you are getting deeper into the observation. Your concentration is getting deeper into the observation. This movement goes around. That is shifting of the area. Don't think, simply observe. And then there's another thing. Before it is the rising, falling, rising, falling. The movement may be right at your abdomen or in your belly, just the movement, expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. And suddenly, you don't have that awareness anymore, and the movement changes. It might be a big tunnel from up and down inside. Or it might be a rod moving from the left to the right. Movement totally changed. It's totally different. There's no awareness of anything but a big stiff rock or a tunnel, up and down or sideways. Sometimes it is like a cyclone. It just swirl and whirl around, spiral around. And if it spirals around, simply just observe the spiraling around. Whatever that physically is happening, you must observe and note. Because your concentration becomes deeper and deeper, you begin to see the finer nature of the movement. That's also another indication that your mindfulness becomes strong and concentration becomes deeper. These explanations are on a practical side, how you could gauge yourself. The first part is simply explained it based on the instruction how to do, theoretical explanation. But in practical, that is how one began to experience these things. Shifting of the areas of the movement, and then the manner or the pattern of the movements shift around and change around. Sometimes it's so weird. It is right at the back on your spine, the movement, boom, 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 that kind of thing. And some people also experience this. Okay, these are the things. Don't think you will be experiencing everything. But just to cover and understand the idea of why, how, suddenly you experience something that you don't know, that you never heard what's happening. I want to dispel that kind of confusion or doubt. That's why trying to explain this way. Sometimes there's a heartbeat. When there's a heartbeat, at that moment you are not aware of your body. It is not your heart there. But let's say in the vicinity of that area, or even totally different, it's just the vibration. Boom, 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 boom. But in the awareness, it knows that it is the beating of the heart. And when things like that happen, some yogis suddenly become worried or concerned or anxious. Oh, what's happening? It's my heart attack. Is my heart walking faster or better? These kind of things could happen. No, that's not what is happening. What is happening is your mindfulness and concentration become deeper and deeper. You totally isolatedly aware of the heart beating. The heartbeat goes on, boom, 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 boom. And then there's the awareness of that beating of the heart. Awareness of the beating of the heart. And in here, all the things we are talking based on where your mind is, okay, put at, that is what you come to know. Let's use this heartbeat and the awareness. Okay? Certainly that beating of the heart is the physical phenomenon, and the awareness is the mental phenomenon. Discriminative awareness of mind and matter. And if you have that kind of clarity, this is one thing, this is another, and you are in that insight of the discriminative awareness. But sometimes you are still observing the same thing. But one thing was, at that moment, your sense, okay, your sense, or you can say the way you see with the mind eye, because of the heartbeat, you come to know about the heartbeat. Because of the heartbeat, you come to know about the heartbeat. You don't have to direct, you simply pops up. So in the same process, one person might be experiencing the first insight, and another person will be experiencing the second insight. You don't have to create it, you have to make it, you don't have to force to see it. It simply comes to you. That kind of nature. Most of the people who practice, okay, pure Vipassana, and they do not have much concentration meditation in there before at all. You just jump in. And what they do was, these kind of people exactly experiences according to the instruction given, which is rising movement, falling movement, touching, and then lifting, pushing, dropping. With those things you see. But there are some people who practice samatha meditation before, in other words, anapana meditation before, or any other type of concentration meditation, and they have quite a good foundation or solid foundation of concentration samadhi. These kind of people experience outside the framework of the rising movement, falling movement, lifting, pushing, dropping movement, because they have the concentration power that they have built from the samatha meditation. Sometime, to give you an example, not even in meditation, but of course you've been meditating for some time long, or you went to meditation for about a month or two, and then you came back out of the meditation, you got home, but the momentum is there. And suddenly, let's say you're looking at your hand, and if you're looking at your hand and suddenly, before it is your hand, we all look at our hand and we know it is our hand, but you are staring at your hand, but at that moment it seems like you are staring at a big stick. You know it is a hand, but that hand has nothing to do with you. It is not a part of you, it is not you, it is totally separate from you. You see the hand like totally like a piece of meat on the ground. Just like that, you can see it is totally distinctly different, nothing to do with you, even though you are staring at your hand. That become discriminative awareness between mind and matter becomes so strong, and your frequency is built up so much in the meditation retreat. Even when you come back, if you maintain that mindfulness throughout the day, you will experience things like that. And suddenly, when you look at it, it is nothing to do with you, but also you know it is your hand. Intellectually, you know your hand, but experientially, this is a totally like a stick that is nothing to do with you. And then sometimes the minds can play. Then look at the hand and say, move to the left. And that big stick, so to speak, the hand, move to the left by itself. Move to the right, it left, move to the right. Those kind of experience may happen. That shows desire or intention of wanting to move. To the left is the cause. That hand moving to the left is the effect. Cause and effect, cause and effect. But in here, you see both insight 1 and 2 together. One is that hand is totally dissociate from you. You are alive, you are awake, your eyes are open, you are not in meditation, you are simply staring at your hand for a certain reason, and then it happens that way. You see the discernment between mind and matter, and also the order or the desire or the wish of the mind is one thing, and that hand that's not connected to you moves. You see both insight 1 and 2 that way. Okay? These are, I call in general, special effects. Don't expect that somebody experienced this, you will experience that, or you must experience that, or you don't force to experience that. All that I'm showing is there are so many ways it will come out of nowhere from the woodwords that you have never expected before, and things might happen. If it happens, don't get worried, don't be concerned, don't get into anxiety. That is the key point. These kind of special effects can happen. And then, let's say you are doing a walking meditation. Okay, you are quite versed now. You know intention lifting, intention pushing, intention dropping, and you have a clear sense of cause and effect, cause and effect. Okay? You are both, in other words, you are experiencing both insight 1 and 2 become quite frequent, frequency become more. And in there, sometimes some yogi will experience you are about to live. So according to the instruction, it's intention to live. Intention to live, and you will find very weird, your foot cannot be lifted. It is being grounded right on the floor, tied down with a ton of weight. You just can't move. Okay? You want to live, but the leg didn't live. And of course, if you are quite aware of the effect of cause and effect, you just say, oh, there's an intention, it doesn't happen, it is not working. That kind of thoughts can arise. That's why there's a little danger of knowing the theories and the events ahead. But what it is at that moment you are experiencing the discriminative awareness of mind and matter. That physical phenomenon operates on its own. And of course you said lifting, but that moment, that intention, the intensity, or the will in lifting is not strong, the leg is tied down. That kind of thing. Sometimes you're sitting and then suddenly the body suddenly bang, leaned forward, about 45 degrees. It moved by itself without your intention to lift, intention to bend. It lived and it stood there, can't move. These kind of experience. And these are all variations of knowing the insight number 1 and 2, discriminative awareness of mind and matter and the causal relationship. And there's one yogi is walking meditation quite intensely doing it because he already know about the insight 1, experiencing once. And he's thinking about insight 2. That's why we said theories, knowing theories had a little dangerous. Here is intention, there's movement. Here is intention, there's movement. And there's some sort of an intellectual control is in there. You are not aware of it, but there is. And he's so deep in doing it. What happened was, at one moment, okay, moving forward, and the foot moved. It moved in such a way, he just cannot even control the foot, keep on moving and moving and moving and moving. And suddenly, oh, I don't even put any intention, it is moving, what's happening? So automatically intellectual mind come in and analyze it. But what it is if you take as it is showing this is purely physical phenomena operating in its own. Okay. Once something is started, sometimes it takes over. And if you want to do it in within the framework, there's a lifting and then pushing. One is push, before it is just one push. And then when you go deeper and deeper and deeper, what you begin to see is the foot move a little bit and stop, move a little bit, stop, move a little bit and stop. In other words, the foot is moving, but you begin to see the portion of no movement. In other words, a break. Movement, stop, movement, stop, movement, stop. The foot is not actually doing if somebody is watching, the foot is simply moving. But your mind is so concentrated, you begin to see this one big forward movement. It's not one movement, it's a series of little mini movements with breaks in between. That's what you begin to see. These kind of things can see. And when you have these kind of things, don't get alarmed, don't get too excited, don't go into analysis. That is the key thing. When you go into analysis, that stops. If you don't go into analysis, you will find that these things can keep on going for some time. You can experience it. So these are the ones that one can experience. Okay. And again too, these kind of special effects. When you go too deep, and when you have the background of concentration meditation, people with concentration may experience more so than the other. If you are doing pure Vipassana, you experience within the framework of our method or technique. That doesn't mean that you won't. There's another one practical indicator for you to know. Let's say you are practicing this mindfulness insight, and you are at the level of the first insight, discriminative awareness of mind and matter. And in there's a one indicator of, so to speak, a special effect. That is, you will see lights in your eyes, but lights in the nature of like a bunch of fireflies floating, like little dim, light up, dim, light up, dim, light up, dim, fireflies floating. You will see in your mind eye these kind of little buzzing little lights, not buzzing like fireflies. Okay, light up, disappear, light up, disappear, a whole bunch of them. And if you see that kind of light, that is also the indicator of the first insight. And in the second indicator, as far as the light's concerned, you begin to see colors. Okay, colors, red, green, blue, and so on. Okay. You see colors, but not clearly, not distinctly, not with form, but simply colors in a more blurred way. You see quite often, not just, okay, you see now, right? Whenever you reach to a certain stage, then you see the colors again. At that moment, the best thing is, you know what to do, seeing, 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 seeing. Okay. And then it will disappear. And that seeing of colors uniquely, okay, but not with precision diagrams and distinction, is the indicator of the insight number 2. These are the sight indicators you may refer to. And then of course you keep on meditating. What? Rising, falling, rising, falling. As we said before, it shifted areas, it changed the patterns, manners, movements, sometime in loops, sometime in circles, sometime in spiral. And then you keep on observing and observing, observing, and suddenly everything ceased to stop. Everything stopped. Okay? Intellectually, we know, okay, we are breathing all the time. As long as we are alive, there's a breath. And as long as there's a breath, there is the movement in your abdominal or stomach area there. To a lesser or greater degree, it is there. Intellectually, we know that. But you meditate, and at one point, you'll find that there is no movement at all, no rising movement, no falling movement. Totally stop. And if that kind of things happen to you, okay, there's nothing to observe. Okay. Don't wonder about it, simply just know it ceased. If it ceased, that means there's rising and falling movement object is not there for you to observe. As it is not there, you cannot observe. As it is not there, you cannot know. And if it happens to you like that, and it will happen to you in a lot deeper stage, in a level 2, what you do was simply observe, sitting, touching, touching, sitting, touching, touching. Of course, you know when we say sitting, you are not visualizing that you are sitting. It is the sensations, like I said, of uprightness, erectness, and stiffness. Okay, that sensation you observe, and that is sitting. When you are sitting, that is what is happening. There's the uprightness, there's the erectness, there's the stiffness. Those are the true nature of what is happening at sitting. And touching is, you have to observe 2 prominent places where there is a touching. Sitting, touching, touching, sitting, touching, touching. Because there's no more movement. But of course, intellectually you know there's always movement. But you go so deep, at that moment, there's no movement. If that's the case, simply observe sitting, touching, or sitting, touching, touching, sitting, touching, touching. That becomes the primary object. So that's why there is no one object is a must, a primary object. A primary object becomes the something that you have to tie it up at that moment quite often, repeatedly. So sitting, touching, touching become the primary object. You just watch sitting, touching, touching. I won't explain into too details what you will experience in sitting, what you would experience in touching. Of course, we already know, but you can discover a lot more deeper, so many things. And the more deeper you get, the more objects it becomes, so many objects. But you see and you know and you sense with precision. So, just to get a little bit of explanation, in case you're wondering why there is no movement anymore. So this one, if you are, or if you had If you still are practicing the in-breath, out-breath meditation, anapanasati, which is concentration meditation. In a concentration meditation, of course, you observe in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, in-breath. And when your concentration becomes stronger, the breath becomes finer and finer and finer and finer. And then the deeper you get, there's hardly a breath. It's still a breath. And you go deeper, and at one point there's no in-breath or out-breath. It's more like a state of a mist, a little mist. That's it. There's no in or no out. It's simply more like you can call it a mist or a cloud or some sort of a soft, light ball area. That kind of states it goes in. Because it becomes so fine, your breath becomes very fine and your breath don't move much, and there's no breath movement to watch, and you can feel some sort of a gaseous states or misty states or foggy states or a ball of cotton or a ball of warm light. That kind of things we'll experience. This is in concentration meditation. Okay. Now, keep that in mind and take that to what you are doing. You are doing rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. Okay. You see that, and that becomes finer and finer and finer. That can correlate with the breath become finer. And finally, the movement ceases to exist. That means the breath is so fine, it is taking in so low to the very deep state of in-breath, out-breath meditation. And here too, the movement ceases to exist. That's it. So don't think that movement disappears, but it becomes so fine. It becomes fine. Why? Because your mind is very strong in mindfulness and concentration become very deep. When the mind is very deep in concentration, all activities of the bodies also become settler and settler and settler. That's what happened. Okay. I just throw it in so that you would understand why is it happening and how it is happening. And the key point of the practice is if there is no movement to observe, if you cannot observe the movement, observe sitting, touching, touching, sitting, touching, touching. You must always have objects to observe. And you are still observing within the circuit. Okay. I call the circuit for people, especially for people who had never meditated before and practicing pure Vipassana right away. And in here, yes, mindfulness has to be continuous with no gap. Only then concentration can arise. Only with the concentration you can see the true nature of mind and matter. Okay. But some yogis have a very difficult time to harness, to keep the mindfulness continuous. So many thoughts come in, so many thoughts come in, so many thoughts come in. And it is not just a week or a month, like sometimes years they go in and still they are going round and round. And for those people, I recommend it. Okay, you build a circuit. Let's say rising movement, okay, rising, sitting, falling, touching, touching. Rising, sitting, falling, touching, touching. Or rising, rising, sitting, falling, falling, touching, touching. Or three, whichever within the circuit you can do comfortably without stressing yourself out. Build a circuit. Okay. Now you got a circuit and your mind is inclined. I am going to observe within this circuit. Instead of one object, you build about 6 objects in a row. You know one after the other which will come, and your mind is inclined and inclined and inclined and put it within the circuit. And if you do that way, you'll find that your thoughts will intrude less and less and less. So for people who have difficulty, I recommend build a circuit and strongly, willfully, with determination, observe that circuit without breaking. If it broke, nothing could be done. Be aware it broke, but go back to the circuit. When it broke, thinking, go back to the circuit. Build that way. If you build that way, if you can do that way with precision, without break, continuous, within 3 to 4 days you will experience the insight number 1. Within 7 to 10 days you will experience insight number 2 in a retreat. Okay. That is the average, of course. Some people might experience within a day a lot more, and some people take a lot longer, but in general, on average, that is the time period one should expect in a retreat setting. So that is insight number 2, causal relationship between mind and matter, insight into the cause and effect of mind and matter. So we are building up this insight 1, insight 2, but what are we really talking about? If you remember the main topics, the main topic is suffering, dukkha. Okay? But to talk about dukkha in a complete, full-rounded way, we have to go step by step. So may all of you be able to practice Satipatthana Vipassana meditation precisely and correctly, and may you be able to experience all a series of insight as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham pujemi, Dhammam pujemi, Sangham pujemi.